videos on Voices of the Unheard. We are 2B Stream, a global youth media initiative, and you're keeping it ugly with me, Joe Ugly, and New Haven Board of Alders Director of Legislative Services, Al Lucas, as we discuss local government politics, how to access city government, and what's on the way from City Hall. My man Al, I welcome you. Welcome you very much. Welcome you. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Absolute. You're more. You are the Director of Legislative Services for the Board of Alders in your city of New Haven. For those of you who don't know what exactly that position is, or those of us, if you could just break it down just a little, what exactly is that position?
So that position is the equivalent of what people would think of as a chief of staff position.
Okay.
Our city council here in the city of New Haven is called the New Haven Board of Alders. They are the legislative body of the city of New Haven, meaning they write all the laws and oversee all the administrative policies of the city. They are, for all intents and purposes, the board of directors for the city of New Haven. And they have a staff of 9 people that work for them. I supervise that staff as we work on behalf of them, on behalf of the residents of the city and visitors and guests.
If I could just break that down and deep dive a little more on that, if my understanding is the legislators who are the alders here in the city of New Haven, the legislative branch of government in the city, they make the laws, and then there's a staff of roughly 9 people who will put those laws in place.
Well, the city staff is responsible, the whole city staff, so all the city department heads, all of them are responsible for actually implementing the laws that are passed by the alders. Our staff basically assists the alders directly. So in terms of putting together the legislation, doing the research that would lead to the legislation being enacted, that's where our staff comes in, following up with constituents for issues that may be happening in their various neighborhoods. All of that is what our staff will help with. We have to write speeches for them, groundbreakings, nice events. We'll write speeches for them. If we have sad occasions, we do ceremonial resolutions on behalf of the Board of Alders in recognition of people who may have made great contributions to the city and have passed on. So it's a little bit of everything, depending on what the need in the city is at the moment.
Okay, you have a pretty intensive resume. If I could go here and read it off, I see you're a Yale alum.
That's true. Yes.
Okay. But before that, you're from St. George School in Newport, Rhode Island, prep school of sorts.
Yes.
I shouldn't say of sorts. It's a prep school.
It's one of the select 16 prep schools.
There you go.
Right?
Let it be known. And you're from where? Where
I was born in Jamaica Hospital.
Oh, is that
Jamaica, Queens.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jamaica, Queens. We have
Queens.
food there.
I know. That's what you say. So I was born. Unlike like many people in Jamaica, West Indies, I do have Jamaica on my birth certificate. I was born in Jamaica Hospital.
Right. So does Trump, by the way.
Yeah, well, we'll move on from there. Grew up in Queens, all over Jamaica, Queens, so Springfield Gardens, Hollis, St. Albans, Queens Village.
You're a Queens man.
I am indeed a Queens man, born and bred.
Okay. So you went straight from, I take it you went to prep school from Queens.
I did.
To Newport, Rhode Island.
Yes, sir.
And I take it that had to have been back in the 80s?
It would have been, yes, 81 to 85.
Okay, so you were in Newport when you could actually sleep on the beaches back then.
Yes. We were a little young for that. But yeah.
Right. But here's the question. What was that like going from Newport? And I'm going to connect all of this in a second. What was that like for a black kid from Queens, New York, going to school in Newport, Rhode Island?
It was an environmentally different situation. Going to a place, coming from public schools in New York, which is important to say. Coming from public schools in New York City and then going to an elite private school in Newport, Rhode Island. This school is literally on the beach in Newport. You were talking about sleeping on the beach. We could have done that if we wanted to. It was just down the hill from the school. All the best facilities that you could imagine. I was an athlete there, so having great sports facilities was wonderful. I tell people all the time the difference between going to play basketball at a place like St. George's, where you could always find a court, versus having to fight to get on a court in New York, or at least clean the court first before you can actually play it, or make your own court, which you might have to do in New York with a bicycle rim or and a nail, bicycle rim and a nail on a telephone pole.
Wow!
Did what you have to do. So that was a monumental change in terms of resources, but it also opened your eyes to the difference between what the people had and had access to, and what people didn't.
You see, and that's the reason why I highlighted Newport, Rhode Island. I'm coming from Queens, New York, because there, and I know Newport from the 80s, and well, to this day, you know, and we're talking about not just city, state, region. I'm talking about country's affluence.
Correct.
Well, it's the summer playground of the affluence of the United States of America. Absolutely. One of them, the only other is the Hamptons.
There's a few, but you know.
Well, I'm talking on that level.
No, the Berkshires, few of them that weren't in. It was like the Massachusetts people went to the Berkshires, and the New York people went to New England.
Berkshires is pretty much good in the fall. You know, you get a great, you know, but we could get all into those.
The people you're talking about, I'm sure had houses in all those places, right?
Good point.
We're talking about the gilded,
right?
You know, the so at St. George's, for example, almost all of the facilities were named after those families, Auchincloss and Astor and Vanderbilt. So, and then obviously in Newport, if you walk down the road a bit, then you see all the mansions that they built, as what you're talking about is their summer.
You know, Newport used to be my playground in the 80s, in the mid 80s. Used to love hanging out in Newport, as I was talking about sleeping on the beach.
I'm sure I saw him on the
beach. Hanging out over there, you know. Because, you know, we went up for, you know, well, I don't need to get into all of that. But
some things just ain't 80s.
There you exactly. What's the 80s? Everybody was trying something.
It's true.
But and the reason why I highlight, as I stated, the Newport and a young black man coming from Queens, New York, is to see the difference in. Yes, you talk about the not having to fight for the courts or nail up a bicycle rim onto a light pole or so, but you also played ball while you were at St. George's, and you were playing ball obviously with people who came from wealth. That first experience in, you know, and that economic, I don't know what was your economic structure. I never asked. And
you know, working class family. My father was a city bus driver. My mother was an admin assistant for a government agency. Okay. So nothing, you know, nothing special, just regular working class folk.
Okay, so coming from a working class family and now around people who of pure wealth, was that first of all, how was your fit in there? How did you navigate that?
Well, it's interesting because boarding school is a great equalizer because you eat the same food, you sleep in the same places, you go to the same classes.
But the social element.
Yeah,
and that plays a major role in
it. Does.
Child.
So
and we're talking about when you were in high school. I hate to keep interrupting, but we're talking about the foundation years of your life.
No, correct.
Because that is what really dictate your future.
Correct. So when you see it, you don't see it as much when you're at school. You see it when you have to leave. So everybody goes back to their various locales, right? So the one of the great examples of this is we would come back from spring break. Many people were lighter hued than me, so when they came back from spring break, they'd have these great tans. And one of the great conversations that would happen was about where you went during spring break. What and so we would hear the islands oftentimes. Which islands did you guys go to? So eventually I had to navigate that,
Mm-hmm.
and I came with my own answer, which was y'all were in the island, so was I. They're like, you were? I was like, yeah, I was at Manhattan, Staten, and Long. While you guys were wherever you were,
right?
I was on the islands of Manhattan, Staten, and Long. I had a great time.
Okay.
In those islands.
But the thing is, you had the wit to carry you through.
Yeah,
because that is required.
It is required.
Where did you get that? Because that's a major.
Yeah, I think that that just comes from being in a household with lots of people around.
Mm-hmm.
Both of my parents were the oldest in their sibling group, mm-hmm. so oftentimes we had many of our cousins in the house with us.
Oh, okay.
And basically, you learn how to navigate those situations with that many people around by figuring out how to stand out. You want to be heard with that many people, so you develop different types of ways to do that. And I think that's probably where that came from. My father was pretty witty too, both my parents too. So I think it's some of it's just the genetic.
Okay.
But at the same time, you also have to develop a level of confidence in
That's
dealing
the key.
with
That's where I wanted to know. Where did that level of confidence through? Because you need it.
So for me, you have to take it back a little bit because coming to St. George's, I was coming from junior high school 231 in New York City, and we had just had a huge racial situation.
Situation.
So it wasn't a situation where some terrible thing happened where a student called a student an N-word or something like that. That happened enough anyway in New York City in the 80s. You don't have to worry about that so much. But the way our school was set up, as I told you, there were multiple communities in that area: Laurelton, Rosedale, Springfield Gardens, and they all feed into these bigger schools. So you go to an elementary school kind of close to where you are, and then junior high school is a wider group of people coming to your school. So those people that went to these various elementary schools all would come to the junior high school. So we're all in junior high school 231, but one of the things that happened was junior high school 231 had an annex building. The annex building was on the other side of a park. On that side of the park was basically where the white neighborhood was. On our side of the park was basically where everybody non-white was. Now, before my family moved in, our side of the park was also the white side of the park. We moved in. Many other families moved in after us on this side, and many of the white flight that you hear about started to happen, and people moved to the other side of this park, Brookville.
They waited till the 80s? Because they were gone. The white flight took off in the 70s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah,
New York had a slow rollout.
It takes time. It takes time. We had, and to be fair, we had a lot of hardline folk who were committed to not leaving the neighborhood while it was changing. So we had, our next door neighbors stayed there until they passed away. They were a white Irish family. We had a white Jewish family that lived across the street from us that stayed there until they passed away. So it took a while for all of those folk to change because we had some folk that were committed. It's one of the great things that prepared me for St. George's was being in a diverse community coming out of Queens. That said, the people that did move were not that excited about this prospect that came up when a parent said, wait a minute, wasn't there a court case back in the 50s that said separate but equal is illegal in the United States and unconstitutional? How do you have a school? You have one building on one side and one building on the other side, and basically one building's all black and brown and the other building is all white. That seemes like separate but equal to me.
Right.
And to a certain extent, it was true because the only time we saw these students was when we were going to orientation and at graduation. We all went to the same school.
Then you're like, what? You from which school?
Our diplomas all said the same thing.
Right.
And so some parent brought suit about this, and the city decided, well, they're probably right, so let's just do a Solomon S type thing. We're just going to split the baby here. So what they did was they told us as students, now remember, we're 12, we're at 12, 13, 14, and they told us as students, guess what? What we're going to do is we're just going to split every class in half.
Oh, my. Half
of you guys are going to go over to the other building, and half of that building is going to come over here.
Oh.
So one of the teachers asked our class, came to our class and said, well, how do you guys feel about the fact that half of your class is going to go to the other school, and half of their class is going to come over here.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the students in my class said, well, we're the smart kids. We're not really worried about that. We're just here to learn. We're just here to learn, miss. But the classes where they're not here to learn, y'all might have some problems. So the problems were never with the young people. Young people are so resilient. They just want to hang out and be young and live life. So when this happened, what eventually happened was, all of a sudden on the news, if people don't understand, let me contextualize this for folk a second. Mm-hmm. In those days, there were 3 news channels. There were 3 channels.
3 channels: ABC, CBS, and NBC.
That's it. Okay? Right. And everybody got their news from those 3 sources and regular newspapers.
And every once in a while, there was 5.
Right.
Right.
And so you got your news from these sources. Mm-hmm. And there was, at this point, there was really only a 6 o'clock news and 11 o'clock news. Mm-hmm. They were starting to play around with a 5 o'clock news. Mm-hmm. But at any rate, so you got, basically there were 6 places you got your news, and 6 and 11 on these 3 stations, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you would get home, and whatever the news of the day was, everybody saw the same news. Mm-hmm. Okay. So all of a sudden we were news, because parents who had been at the other school, the annex, decided that they refused to bring their kids to this main building. We called it the main building, because the terrible things happened over there. Right. Oh my God, people are getting stabbed in the hallway. Right. There's fights outside the school every day. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching this on the news, because our school is on the news, and we're all watching this. And I get a phone call from one of my friends. He's like, "Are you watching this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm watching this." I said, "Was there a fight today?" He's like, "No." I said, "Did somebody get stabbed today? I don't know. I don't understand." He's like, "No, that's never happened." I said, "Okay." We literally lived. I grew up 2 doors away from the school that we're talking about, so we would see after school everything that would go on, and none of this stuff was going on. And so we worked through it. Some of those parents tried to get their kids into Catholic school or some other private school, but it was the middle of the school year when it was happening. It was very difficult for them to do. Mm-hmm. Some of them just said they would refuse to take their kids there, whatever. In the meantime, the students are welcoming each other, right? And bonding with each other. Yeah. And we're just being kids.
Being kids.
Yeah. If you can play basketball, we don't care.
Right. Catch a football in the end zone, go for it. You fast. There you go. Right.
If you're smart, if you're an artist,
right.
We're all vibing. Right. If you're a cute girl, we don't care. Right. So now it's different for the parents, but this is how the kids are.
It's always the parents.
It's always the parents.
Always the parents.
So just to contextualize that, so I just come out of that. So when I got to St. George's
in Newport,
Newport, Rhode Island, with there were 13 of us, 13 students of color on this campus.
Without deep diving into it, you how were you selected to go to?
Oh, that's a good question. So I ended up there through a scholarship program called the Better Chance Program.
Okay, so you were excelling in school anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they will not. This is what we've learned over the years. At elite spaces that have historically not given access to our communities, the only way to break in there is to be excellent at something.
Gotta be excellent.
Excellent at something.
You just can't be good.
No, you can't be good.
Everybody else could be good.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to us, we better be excellent.
You gotta be
super excellent.
You gotta be super excellent. And it's interesting because the classes I was in junior high school basically was all the super excellent kids. So it could have been any of us.
Right. But 13 of you guys ended up over. Now, was it 13 from all over the country or just 13?
Well, at that time, mostly Northeast. Mostly Northeast. A lot of the kids we actually had some that literally lived in Newport that were day students. We call them that actually lived in Newport. There's a history in Newport of African American families being there for a long, long time, and I was there with a member of a family who's
somebody gotta clean their mansions.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But also, the one of the families I was there with, the first postmaster that was there, they had a history of being the postmasters in Newport.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a whole hidden history related to people of color and
in many spaces.
In most spaces, right?
Yes, exactly. In most spaces.
In most spaces.
For example, for yourself, here you are. You're the director of legislative services. How long you been
So I've been in the office since 1990. I took this particular
Since 1990.
Since 1990.
And you know what's really interesting? There are a lot of people who still don't know exactly what you do.
They're good.
No.
That's job security for me.
You know
Let's keep it that way.
You know what?
You
know what? I know. You know what? I can never hate on a good player. Listen, but here it is. I said that I highlighted that you went to St. George's School in Newport. You're a Yale alum, which we definitely need to touch base on that. What year did you?
So I came here right after St. George's, so it was 85 to 90.
Okay. Wow. Whew. So this guy was like. Anyway, I'm gonna let that pass. So he's a Yale alum.
Another dude.
Yeah, just another dude. This guy's excelling in many ways. So then, now I also have here that you got a Lifetime Achievement Award from Zeta Psi Beta Sorority.
Yeah, Zeta Phi Beta.
Yeah. And the New Haven chapter for your for decades of service to the New Haven community. Outside of the Director of Legislative Services, which we're gonna get back to. I gotta let people know something about this.
Yeah.
Something about this
Call
position.
203-946-8371. Call me. I'll handle that part.
Repeat that number.
203-946-8371.
There you go. Give him a call.
Give me a
He'll tell
call.
you
Any
exactly
issues
what
you
it's
got,
all about. But you're pretty grounded in the community itself.
Sure.
What is it that you see in the city of New Haven that all your experiences in life, like all going from junior high, the experience that split in the school, ended up at St. George's in Newport, Rhode Island, which took you into a different lifestyle altogether. Then ended up at Yale University here in the city of New Haven. And what do all those experiences did to help bring you to the city, what you do at the city of New Haven?
Yeah, I think I've always had a passion for just making life better for others.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything I do is based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons why I've loved the job I have and have been in this position for so long. Because every day I know that when I go home, I've made the life better for somebody.
Okay.
And so that's basically what the combination of all of those experiences has led to. It gave me the tools to be empathetic as well about other people, to not be judgmental, to not be prejudicial because you think someone, like you're talking about people who come from wealth. A lot of people think people that come from wealth just have it easier because they come from wealth. There's no guarantee to that. You don't understand necessarily what they're actually going through, what their circumstances are, what their situation is. Now what's happening with all the ultra wealthy now is they've told their kids they're not giving them anything.
Right.
So I don't even know what's good. I don't even know what that's going to turn into. But
enjoy this PJ. I'm talking about private jet.
Yeah, enjoy
this private jet
now.
Because when you turn 30, you better grow wings.
Yeah, it's interesting. But so I learned a lot. I learned basically
you're gonna get $1 billion any damn way.
$1 billion doesn't go as far as it used to. Just saying.
They go far enough.
It goes far enough.
They'll still fly private.
I understand, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, so this is what it all brought to a head for me was the idea of being open to understanding people's situations and what they need, their needs, and putting myself in a place to actually help them. And so I've always been driven towards that. Again, like you're talking about going back to welcoming the kids from the annex to the school building, right? Putting myself in that position as being the person to kind of say, okay, it's gonna be all right. Welcome, you're with us. We're all one.
Oh, when you were in junior high, you all the way then. You were welcoming kids.
Oh yeah. I mean, wow. Listen, I've been
did they select you to be part of the welcoming committee, or you just decided?
No, it's just
Okay.
But
there it goes. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Our people are often the most welcoming group.
That's true.
We are always willing to reach out and say, hey, you know what? You're welcome here. We'll entertain anyone. Sometimes even until you mess up. Sometimes even beyond you when you mess up.
We're definitely a very
forgiving group.
Forgiving people.
Too forgiving. Won't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, we again, we still haven't forgiven people for offering us a free
Boat
cruise.
ride.
Yeah, free cruise.
Free
So
cruise.
I don't take any free cruises.
There you go. Exactly.
Last time we took up people on that one, it didn't work out so well.
Didn't work out so well. Ended up on an auction block.
Yeah. Places unknown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So local government, you're involved in it now since 90, you said?
Yeah, 1990. Yeah.
Okay. You've been around, you've seen the changes of government, you've seen the different administration. Hey, you came in with what? DeStefano? John Daniels.
John Daniels.
Jeez, my gosh.
Yeah.
John passed away and you're still here, man.
Yeah, well, God bless him.
God bless him.
God rest his soul.
All right, Peter. John Daniels, in case you don't know, people you're not from the area, he's the first African-American mayor of the city of New Haven. Tony Hawk being the second, first female is was Tony Hawk. And now the current administration, which is, what is it like dealing with first of all, there was John Daniels, John DeStefano, then Tony Hawk, and now Justin Ellicott.
Right.
Those are 4 different administrations you've been through. I got to ask you, which one was the ride, man?
Which one was the ride? Well, it's great for me because being on the legislative side, we the way legislators have said this over the years is the executive, who's the mayor, proposes and the legislature disposes. So it really doesn't matter who the executive is.
Right. But in the city, and this city is very political, and I grew up in this town, as you know. My family is politics, as you know. The 3 equal but separate branches of government don't always end up equal and separate.
Yeah.
The executive pretty much has a thumb on the legislative end in this town. A strong thumb.
They can. I mean, they can. Part of my job is to, as the director of legislative services, is to help guide the legislators to understand how much power they actually have.
Okay.
And so New Haven is one of the few places where there's it's really balanced. It's very similar to the way D.C. is set up,
right?
Where there's separate but equal branches of government.
Okay.
The question becomes, to your point, about who is actually pulling the levers of power behind the scenes. And so my job is to, as I tell the politicians all the time, I do government, y'all do politics. So I will help you all understand how the machinations of government work.
Okay.
What powers you actually have. Most of the time when you see a very strong executive, it's often because the legislature is not accessing the full breadth of their power. Remember, they write the laws.
Right.
So they can always write a stronger law if it's something that they need to overcome the executive in.
Which brings something to mind. The Board of Alders, which is the legislative branch, if you have not figured out by now, if you're listening to us, did not figure out by now, the Board of Alders it wasn't until, I would say, last 15 years or so, maybe 20, that they started getting paid to be on there. A very minimal amount of money.
Yeah, they don't really get paid.
First of all, I can understand when it was only white males who owned property who were allowed to vote. Right. I can understand that being a volunteer board of legislators. Moved on now that they get a very small amount, but the responsibilities are huge. Yep. Won't you agree it's a time that the Board of Alders start getting paid a livable wage?
Listen, it's the people's decision. At the end of the day,
I understand it's their decision, but I would just like to know your guidance.
No, I mean, hopefully this will show up on a ballot, and the people will get a chance to weigh in on it.
How does it get on the ballot?
So anybody can. It goes through the alders, but anybody can submit it. Submit the request is one of the great things about the way New Haven's legislative body works. You can submit anything. You don't like something or you want to see a change, you just submit it in writing to the Board of Alders, and it'll go to a committee, and we'll have a public hearing, and we'll have the board vote on it and send it to the mayor for signature. And if that all goes well, then it's It is now law.
But you also said we could go for a referendum on the ballot.
Yes. So that's the same process.
Same process.
Same process. Somebody submits something to the alders.
Mm-hmm.
They then have public hearings on that submission.
Mm-hmm.
They vote on that submission, and then it goes to the mayor for signature. And once that is all done, if it's passed, then it would go on the ballot at the next election.
It's not the being on the ballot is not a challenge to a no vote.
No, I mean, if we have most of the things that end up on the ballot, people vote yes to. We just went through one of the states.
So then, if the legislators already voted for it, why does it need to go on the ballot? This is state law. The answer to your question is state law requires any increases. Oh, okay, that's what it is.
In legislative compensation
Mm-hmm.
for every legislature in the state, except for the General Assembly, who is our state reps and state senates.
Right.
Every other legislature in the state must put something out to referendum. The General Assembly can vote on it themselves, for themselves, which they just did.
Right.
Exactly. And that was overdue too. It had been a similar amount of time, decades, since they had seen any kind of increase in their compensation.
Look, we have situation here in this town, and I think we will get more qualified, and more. Let's work with the word qualified. I think we will get higher quality. Look, I'm not saying that the Board of Alders don't have.
That's what it sounds like to me.
I know.
So
that's why I got to make sure.
That check you right now.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say.
Let me say. I mean,
no. Alders. No, hold on. Let me.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not Michael Jackson or Michael Phelps. I'm not moonwalking or backstroking this one out.
Right.
No, here we go.
But I'm just telling you.
I'm Joe Damn Ugly. Let's keep it ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly means keeping it real.
Right.
Board of Alders. Some of you guys are asleep at the wheel.
Well, I mean, I don't know what that means.
Well, like I said, those are my words.
Right. So
and I'm not holding you to that.
No, but I don't know what that means.
I think that they let stuff go by that should be checked. For example, housing in the city of New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
Housing in the city of New Haven needs to be checked.
Right.
And it needs to be checked on a legislative level.
Right. So
I think that when we keep having people popping in and dropping all these mega units, and first of all, the units are not built for families. They're built for transits, if you ask me.
Right.
How fast can you do you just want to you're a young person that you just want to come into the city for 3 to 5 years,
right,
and you utilize the city for that? That's not a strong tax base.
Well,
so
if the units are there, remember, the people are not paying the tax on the property, the property owner's there. So as long as the property is there, then we're going to get the tax on that. But that's not the issue that you're talking about.
How strong of a tax base if these places going to end up? Let's remember the 80s. You've been here long enough, where when we had blight with the condo with the condo bubble.
Absolutely.
So we can have that.
You can.
That could make the city a blight city.
There's no question.
In a heartbeat.
There's no question
that's currently a downside. I know I keep cutting you off.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's all right.
We're
conversing. It's all right. there's no question that the market, the bottom could fall out of a market. Right. That's happened historically over the course of the existence. So that's not something it's an impossibility. It's possible to happen.
Well, it never happened in real estate until the bankers got happy back in the 80s, but that's another story.
Yeah, we'll have a separate show for that.
Yes.
But to your point, the alders agree with you on what you're saying, and so they've been holding developers' feet to the fire. You want to come in? So they just passed what they call an inclusionary zoning law that requires that if you're going to build a certain amount of units, that you must have a certain amount of affordability, a percentage of affordability.
See, that's the thing I'm talking about there. You see, that's the cute statement. Come on,
it's law. It's not cute.
No,
this is law.
Yeah, but it's still cute. And I'm telling you why I want to call it cute.
Okay.
I'm calling it cute because you use the word affordability. That's subjective. What's affordable to one is not affordable to the other. Hold on, one second. Great, for example, the building I live in, largest residential building in the state. Only less than 1% is dedicated to people of lower income. Less than 1%.
Correct.
I mean.
So how many units is that?
We have
Is that the 500 unit building?
We have 500 unit buildings, so it's less than.
So five.
Less than 5 units.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So 5 units. So here's
that I know of.
Right.
If they are, I guarantee you I wouldn't
Right.
know. And the next thing I don't like is the fact that they put them all mostly on one floor.
Yeah. So
I hate that.
All of it, right. So all of that, those things. So that building was built prior to this, right? To this, and so it's been an opportunity to learn from that particular development. So we don't let that happen anymore. So now there's a push for larger units. There's a push for more affordability. There's a push for a lot of mixed income.
What's
right?
affordability though? That's
so
scary
you have to
question.
use no, you have to use metrics, right?
Okay, what's the metrics that they're using for?
So the metrics that the board has been focused on is what is the gross sort of median income for the city of New Haven. Okay?
What is it? 32,000?
That might be for it's probably less than that. That's probably for the what they would call the standard metropolitan area, which would take us up to Meriden and down. So one of the big fights that we've had is that the way that HUD does this, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, is they look at us as a bigger metropolitan area. So we got Meriden, Waterbury, us all in the same. So most developments come in and they use that as their affordability.
That is so scary. Though.
Correct. So
that's so scary.
So what we've been doing on a local level is saying that doesn't work for us. Okay, those numbers they're skewed off and not in our favor. So we need you, if you're going to do business with us, to be looking at our numbers, to be realistic about the numbers here.
Okay.
We're not going to play this game of you kind of grabbing all these bigger numbers and then still having us in a situation where what we call it is, the way we used to talk about it is, we want you to be developing units and buildings, housing, where the people who work on building that housing can actually afford to live in it.
But what is really interesting to me is that when we're talking about the greater New Haven area, we're talking roughly 32,000. That is damn near poverty. And we're talking about that as the medium.
Right.
We're not even talking about the lower level.
Correct.
That's the medium. So therefore, the lower level is like about what, $15,000, $18,000?
Listen, there's no question that this is the Connecticut in and of itself is a land of just two lands, right? You have go back and forth with California as being the wealthiest state in the country, and at the same time,
that's only because of one area. Though.
We have, and at the same time,
the tech area.
It's really the financial industry, right? It's all
which is backed by the tech.
Yeah, it's all that financial industry stuff, and then you have.
Which backs the tech? The financial industry totally backs the tech.
It's America, right?
Yeah.
So we understand that this is. We talked about this Northeast being this place where the landed gentry built all their museums to themselves.
Don't even get me started on that one, sir.
So no, I'm not trying to. But we also have right in those counties, right? We're talking about Fairfield County right now. In Fairfield County, you have some of the poorest residents in the state of Connecticut.
Correct.
Same thing here in New Haven County. And so that's we're aware of that and are constantly working on those issues. It is a combination of lots of factors, but at the end of the day, what you have to do is you need to drive industry here.
But you see, this is what I'm talking about, Al. And you have this great knowledge, and this is what I say by some of the alders maybe asleep at the wheel, is because when I see something like the median income in this area as being 32, and I'm using the area still,
right,
32,000. If you're looking at the city, it's probably 27,000, if not less. I don't know.
Sure. We'll look it up.
I'm quite sure.
We'll look it up.
But the thing that drives me nuts is that the alders, are they aware of this? And are they looking at saying, listen, you can't just build 1%, 5%. You need to put in 10% of your doggone buildings because if you don't, a minimum of 10%, by the way, because if you don't, what do they think is going to happen to them? They can get gentrified right on out of the city as well.
Well, so two things. I'll go back to your gentrification piece in a second, because I think that gentrification has now taken on a word that is inconsistent with our history in this country, where in many places that we have glamorized and made movies about.
Right.
We were the gentry.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea that somehow gentrification is only for some specific type of person is inconsistent, I think, with our history. But that aside, they've been.
Hold on,
we're gonna go back to that.
Massage that one. Pump them brakes. Hold on 1 second.
So
deep dive a little into that.
I mean, we talk about Black Wall Street all the time, right? What is that? That's what you all would associate now with this word gentrification. This is the black gentry. These are the folk. These were the black financiers, the doctors, the lawyers, the dentists, all of the major people who people now are calling the gentry, the gentrified. Dixwell Avenue in New Haven, where we're going to see a new project come up, and there's some others. Right.
New development. Watch that word project, man.
Yeah, watch the word project. Fair enough.
Okay.
But we're going to see.
By the way, all my people's on the project. I'm not knocking the projects. I'm literally working over here overtime to wipe the stereotype. That's all I'm doing over here. Continue, sir.
Okay.
Jesus. No, I gotta clarify.
No, I understand what you're saying because it'll turn into one thing. Right?
Exactly.
So. But yeah, I mean, so Dixwell Avenue in New Haven has a history of being that place where all of the opticians, the dentists, the doctors, the major churches, the big mega churches, everybody, Dixwell was our Black Wall Street. So now when we have a project that's coming back on Dixwell development, that's coming back on Dixwell, and we hear people say, oh, the gentrification vampires are coming back, it's a little inconsistent.
But I'm not saying they're coming back. I'm saying gentrifying in a different direction. It's taken away. Look, those places.
That's fine. I mean, I think the Dutch felt that way about Harlem, right?
No, but
like, I mean, that's how America works. Different.
But are you concluding that that's how it should be?
It's not a matter. It's not my decision. It's not a matter of that. Do we want to have a community where we have a diverse community, where we have a community of desire, where people want to actually come here? That
I don't mind that. But what the part of the equation that I have a problem is when you start. Look.
I agree with that.
It's
part.
okay. It's okay to have. It's okay to have mixed cultures, races, and all of that stuff in any area. I don't have a problem with that.
Correct.
What I have a problem with is replacement.
Correct.
And I have a massive problem with that. And there are some people who can't be in an area unless others are out.
Correct. So,
and look, hold on. Going back to what you were just highlighting, you raised a hell of a good point. When we talk about Dixwell Avenue, dentists, lawyers, all of the professionals, Black Wall Street, if we may, of the 60s and 70s that were there, who own businesses, and not just businesses, but property.
Correct.
Let's talk about those properties right out there.
Correct.
Those properties were redlined. Right. Those properties were not allowed to advance. Correct. So instead of dropping the bombs by planes, they dropped financial bombs on 100%. Them until those neighborhoods went out.
100%.
Until those people had to leave them because they could not keep up with the upkeep of the building without having resources coming back into the community. Right. Now you have people who can come in now because they were able to advance in whatever community they were in, and their kids are now coming in and snatching it up and pricing out the people who held on.
Some of that's true, but we talked about white flight, we talked about black flight.
We were forced out. We were literally forced out.
Some of that was us forcing out. Some of that was us being happy to go to places that we hadn't been able to go to before.
Some of it was, but no. That is the result of being forced. When you're being forced out of something and you look over and say, "Ooh, I'm being forced out of here, but I couldn't go there." Of course, you're gonna take there.
All true. All true.
Great example. And I'm just going to hit this real quick. And I don't want to let you go. This is why I love chopping it up.
I know, right? This is what we do.
Talking with Al Lucas here from the city of New York. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Look, great example is, and I talk about this on this program in the past, we look at the neighborhoods that we were just talking about.
Yes.
A lot of those places were, by the time, let's just put a time frame on it. And I could go on and on about this over and over. But let's look at, you see, I have to go back and repeat this once more. Those places were built in the early 1900s, okay? We're talking about 100 years ago.
Right.
So by the time blacks got a hold of them, it was the 60s and 70s. By the time they built equity into it, was the 80s and 90s. By the time they did get equity in the 80s and 90s to do something with it, banks were redlining even harder. They're saying, oh, no, Not only that you are in a neighborhood of a high risk, here was a killer. Here it goes. You got lead and asbestos in your building, so we can't find it. We can't finance it. People who work hard for 20 years, they can't even pull something out of it to build it up. What are they going to do? Leave and go to somewhere else that they weren't really allowed to before. That was forcing them out. They literally pushed these neighborhoods up. Now, it had the banks supported this and supported these areas. And this is why I'm pushing back on these big buildings coming in and just squashing stuff. Because if these legislators now got to step in and say, okay, the banks might not support it, and the banks are going to give these people loans because they got the credentials. Right. We, as legislators, have to wake the hell up and create laws that says, no, you cannot push these people out.
Correct. So this is what the legislators have done. This is why I was asking you what you're talking about by saying people are asleep at the wheel when they are passing.
Okay, what's the percent? Okay, I hear you. Well, what's the? So sorry for keep cutting you off.
No, it's all right. This is what we do.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to do a rude broadcast.
No. So the answer to your question, as I think where you're going with this, is the percentage varies depending on the size of the unit and the location.
Okay.
So the
location. Look out, people. Here he comes.
Right. So you're funny. So location is real estate. Location. Okay. The number one maximum in real estate.
There we go.
And so it varies, and there is, because it's legislation and because it's new legislation, it's constantly being reviewed to see about whether this works, or we need to go more. We need to go more. We need to go more. Where's that sweet spot between where a developer says this project doesn't work for me and where we say we need you to go? And so that's the dance that's being played right now. But the good thing about this is that the developers are willing to dance. Okay. And historically, that hasn't been the case. So there's definitely a change in the marketplace right now.
They don't have a damn choice. They never did have a choice. But the problem is legislators were willing to give in. Well, legislators were willing to turn their head.
Listen, at the end of the day, keep in mind, again, I know we're talking about housing, but at the end of the day,
it's a primary source of anyone's existence. It's a roof over their head.
No question about that. It's a right. It's not a privilege, right? Exactly. So at the end of the day, it's very important. But at the same time, you have to remember it is not the only thing. And we are not a city of unlimited resources, right? And so what happens is to your point, you have policy choices that people have to make. That is the nature of a democracy. And so what happens is, and this is, I need people as passionate as you to show up at our public hearings when we have hearings about these types of
They don't tell me about them. They keep them secret.
Listen,
like,
203-946-8371. Just give me a call and I'll tell you about everything going on.
After the fact. No,
I'll tell you ahead of time. Just call me, give me your phone number, and I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah. We put everything up, obviously on the web. You and I have talked about limitations around that over the years. But which is why we'll send stuff out to people. We create mailing lists for people. We try to keep people in it. And this particular board of Alders.
You guys want to know how to do a mailing list? I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you want to know how to do a mailing list, call Martin Looney.
Okay.
I'm in his district, and I got to tell you, my God, I get a flyer from him every time the wind blows.
That's
just a reminder, I just moved 3 pieces of legislation this week.
Right. After your point about after the fact, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't get anything from the state legislature to tell you to come up to the hearing ahead of time.
Come on, are you kidding me? No, he don't want me there.
Well, this is what we want on our end. Right. And the state legislature does too.
How far? Go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, how far in advance?
Yeah.
It depends on what the issue is. Sometimes it's things that we plan for a long time. Some things it's things that come up quickly. It really depends on what happened, what's going on. So we could.
You know what I love about this? It's like I just said half of my sentence and he could have finished it. This is this guy and I, man. We go back and forth. When we lock in, we lock in.
That's
you know? It's like I just said, how far? How about he knew how far in advance? Yeah, I got you, Joe. Go ahead, Joe. You run. Just chill, fall back. I got the rest of the sentence.
Yeah, exactly. I got you. I understand what you're asking.
Go ahead.
So all of that. I mean, but I want to make that case as strongly as possible. It's the one thing that changes legislators is showing up. People have to show up. We have these meetings, and now it's been decades, right? I've been going to these meetings for decades, and I can tell you that it makes a huge difference when people actually show up. And one of the things we have to get better at is the things that we're passionate about. We need to show up for. I told you, here in the city of New Haven, one of the greatest things about the way our legislature works is whatever it is that you care about, you can just submit a request for them to have a hearing about it, and they will do it. So it's not like you're waiting. You have to sit back and wait. Oh, when are they going to get to this? Or when are they going to get to that? You have an issue, you call us, we get it. I'll give you.
Now, what's the time frame if I have an issue that I'm looking to get it on?
So we meet every 2 weeks. The board meets every 2 weeks. So, for example, next week, tomorrow will be our deadline for submitting things for the next meeting. It's usually the Tuesday before the meeting.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me submit this right now on right here on the stream meeting.
Yes.
I've had a problem now for 3 administrations. It's not the only one.
It means you didn't call me, but it's okay. 203-946-8371. He should have used that number.
All right. Here's my problem. Right here at the corner of Church and Chapel, at the corner of State and Chapel.
Yes.
2 intersections, 2 major intersections in the city. I can't understand, why can't we have a turning light on those 2?
Now, this is an interesting question, and I'll tell you why this is an interesting question.
Oh, here we go.
Because I agree.
I'm gonna hear the same answer I heard 10 years ago from Doug.
Well, this is I had the same question to Doug.
Oh, okay.
So for those of you who don't know, Doug Houseleden is a person who used to be our transportation, traffic, and parking director for the city of New Haven and handled all things related to traffic. So,
by the way, I like Doug. I was sad that he left.
Well, he's still here. He's running the parking authority now.
Yeah.
But
he's like, I don't got to deal with Joe Ugly.
This is So let me do the good part first. There is a turning light coming for
10 years
for
Church and Chapel.
For Church and Chapel, and I know at one point it was there. I don't know if we were just testing it there or not.
It was never there.
But the answer, it was there. But the answer that
when was it there?
Just curious. I don't know. I'll have to go to the Wayback Machine and
I'll get back
to you and I'll tell you about it later. And I'll tell you about it later. But I feel your pain.
Hold on. You know one of the things I threatened Doug with?
Yes.
Didn't work. I told him I was going to go up to Howard K. Hill and rent a casket.
Okay.
And just lay out in the middle of the damn street and tell him Doug's not going to change. They put a light up here until I end up in this box.
Well, and
I was going to, but I just couldn't get a casket for rent for it.
I understand.
To drop off and pick up and drop off.
To give my good friend Doug Houseley his props.
Yeah.
We did do all sorts of analysis on that. And and he did get to the point where there is a turning light coming for that corner.
It's been on a study for 10 years.
Well,
it was a study for 10 years. Am I right or wrong? Oh God.
It's probably been longer than that.
Who needs to study a turning light for 10 years? I've been living on the block for 6.5 years, and before I even moved downtown. So I was complaining about.
I will relay your concern to your alder, to tell people how this process works. What happens is you don't go all ugly on this, all right? You don't need to go to Howard K. Hill and get a casket and bring it out. Okay? What you do is you call your alder, okay? And then your alder will run it up the chain. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is we will have hearings about it.
Okay.
We'll force the department heads to sit in front of us, explain what the deal is, what's really going on here. We'll get the traffic counts. We'll get all those particular issues related to
study.
Oh God! Well,
another 10 years.
They're all done, right?
Okay.
So we're just gonna have these people sit in front of us and give us the information. We don't need to do another study. We just need to tell us what you've done.
Well, why don't they park order telling us just roll up with a truck?
Just roll up with a truck.
Just roll up with a truck.
I'm telling you.
I mean, how is it just to roll up with a truck? Give me a ladder. Give me a ladder.
No, we're not doing. We're not going all ugly, people. Okay. All right. Let's.
I don't even need a cherry picker.
We don't need.
Just give me a ladder, some lights, and a green. Hover over it.
We don't need vigilanteism. Public works. That's not how we do things here. Okay. We have a process. We're gonna follow the process.
Oh my goodness.
But because the alders feel that pain, what you're talking about, very personally, because their meetings are in City Hall, and these are all one. What people don't understand is these are all one-way streets for people who aren't familiar with this.
Are they still going to turn that into a two-way going?
The long-term goal, yes, is for there to be more two-way streets, and including the Church Street as being one of them.
Right. At least from over here, right?
Yeah, in this downtown area.
I'll tell you. Excuse me.
Yep.
Excuse me.
York Street was like that at one point.
Right, it was. York Street used to be, but at least that ended up by Toad.
Yeah, used to go the opposite direction. So they're looking at all of that. They're looking at all of those, all of that, and so.
But here's one thing: whenever I start seeing a bunch of one ways, I know what that is. All part of the white flight. Get them out of town quick.
Here we go. Well, for those of you that are not in, that don't live
you got
here,
me coughing over here, man.
For those of you that don't live here, I just want you to understand that all of the one ways that we have actually lead to our neighborhoods. So I'm not quite sure
what am I talking about?
What you're talking about?
Yeah.
When they all actually go right directly into our neighborhood.
You had Church Street to help them got in to get to work to the UI, and College Street helped them got out quicker.
Well, we won't get it. That's another show. At the end of the day, yes, it was very different in New Haven when you had all of the major companies downtown, right? So you had all of the buses all come to one location downtown. Mm-hmm. The streets were all focused on bringing people into one central hub downtown.
Church Street got them in.
That's it.
Temple and College got them the hell out.
Yeah, right on. Right off the highway.
That's how they did it.
But anything like that, to sort of double down on what Joe was talking about, if you have an issue, any kind of issue, whether it's a turning light, whether it's a whatever it is, a tree that's down that you need taken up, a wire that's down, whatever it is. One of my favorite situations that I tell people about is when young people came to me and they had an issue, and I explained to them what I did, and they said, "We have this issue." I said, "Well, okay, what's this issue?" They said, "We're playing ball at Goff Street Park, but the lights go off too early. So what we're doing is we're somebody who has a car, we're having them turn their lights on, and so we can keep playing." And so I said, "Well, how late are you talking about, right? Like, we're not playing until midnight." Right. Like, no, it's just that as the summer ends, it gets darker earlier, and so we're still playing to the same time that we've been playing before, but now it's dark, right. So I said, okay, all right. So I said, let me look into that. I think that's something that we can address. Made a couple phone calls. The Parks Department said, "Oh, that's a simple fix for us. We just weren't unaware of the situation. Simple fix for us. We just need to change the timer."
Who's that? Mark DeCola?
No, he's over in Public Works. This would have been Bill Dixon.
Oh, okay.
People on the Parks and Rec side.
Okay. How is Bill?
Bill was great. Bill was great. One of the jewels that we have that people around the country, I think, have a much bigger appreciation for him than he gets shown here. He's the only black operator of an ice rink in the country, our ice rink, and has been doing rec stuff in New Haven for years. Midnight Basketball, which I'm the commissioner of, but I came in under him. It was his program that he started at Goff Street Park when it first started.
Give me a little background on Midnight Basketball.
So Midnight Basketball, one of my passions, Midnight Basketball is a program that was started really in the mid-'90s as a way to give young people a diversion. And also for those that were really engaged in negative activity, to get them so tired that by the time we finished with them, they would not be engaged in any negative activity because they would be too tired to do it. So it was a model that came out of Chicago. I think Chicago had the sort of first big one doing this. And we at that time we had a men's league, we had a college league, a high school league, and a young kids league. It's now sort of more compressed. We still have what we call the college league for women, which is the adult women's league. So it's not just colleges, but college and up. We have the high school leagues for both the boys and the girls, and then we have the middle school league basically for the younger kids. And so it's almost every kid that plays any kind of sport has been through the Midnight Basketball program around here.
It's really launched a lot of good players.
Yeah, we've had some people that have gone to various leagues, the NBA, the WNBA,
college,
definitely the colleges come and look. The colleges come and look. It's also like when we do the fall league for the girls' high schools, it's also a good opportunity to see what the league's going to look like. Right. With whose teams look good, and all that kind of stuff. You get previews for it. But it's played a great role in developing fundamental skills.
And that's mainly kids out of New Haven, by the way, right?
Yeah, this is a New Haven program. We take kids from anywhere, but it's
Right.
a New Haven. It's I mean, we right now, I think this summer we probably had about 200 kids. I'd say 180 of them were New Haven kids.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow. Last time you and I were at an event, I had my guys who were out there doing stuff, which, by the way, I want to talk with you about after.
Yep.
Definitely on that. Listen, man, I'm talking with Al Lucas here. He is, I got to give the correct title, Director of Legislative Services for the Board of Alders here for the city of New Haven. Al, listen, man. People say great things about you. I'm still holding up. No, I'm teasing.
Your check hasn't cleared yet. My bad. My bad. Should be good by tomorrow. Promise.
No, every time I speak with this brother, I always enjoy it. We always get into deep conversations. And I know having you in here and being able to explain what your position and being working with the Board of Alders, what the Board of Alders do, government as such. One more thing before you take out of here, man. You were there in City Hall. Do you think well, you're more on the legislative side.
I do government, man. I don't do politics. That's
you don't
where
do
you going
politics,
with that.
Right?
You'll have a whole show about that. You have a whole show. So what he's talking about is we are now entering the municipal election season.
He knows my brain, boy.
So where he's going with that is what the landscape looks like in the municipal elections. And that's a whole separate show. So
I thought he was going to deep dive into it.
No. Well, it's too early, to be honest with you.
It's not too early.
Well, it's too early because nobody's declared.
No, it's not too early.
So everything at this point would be speculation. Let's let the process play itself out, and let's see who actually is interested, not who people want to be interested or think is going to be interested, but let's see. I will say one of the other groups that I work with is called the Coalition of Black Democratic Clubs from across the state of Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many are there?
So there are about 6 now.
Okay.
Were
they always 6 or were they more?
No, we recreated this group. So there was a previous group that had about the same, many way back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But we created this group during the pandemic because we were very concerned.
I remember Jim, what's his name up there in Hartford? He used to run was a president of the Black Democratic Club back then.
So
what the hell is Jim's last? Well, he passed away. Yeah.
So we've been working to kind of reestablish that, especially as a new generation of legislators and mayors and people interested in politics have started to develop and to try to help them connect them to the history in this state and make sure that they understand the legacy that they're a part of.
Right.
And so I say all that to say that it's going to be interesting all the way around the state. We have many candidates in lots of cities. New Haven is kind of in between because we have 2-year terms. Most of the cities have 4-year terms.
I'm just going to say, well, what do you think about this 2-year term? I think it's really, I'll let you tell me.
Listen, it works for Congress. So, I mean, if it works for Congress, I don't have a position on it one way or the other. To me, at the end of the day, the people seem to like it. Again, these things go to referendum with us. We'll be doing charter revision this year. So charter revision, for those folk that don't understand what that means, is basically there's a basic guiding document that tells the city how to operate. We call it the charter. It's the Constitution of the city. In the state of Connecticut, we're mandated at least every 10 years. We could do it sooner, but at least every 10 years.
So this is the year?
So, 2023.
Okay.
We'll be doing charter revision, and this will be a question that will come up in terms of terms. Hamden just did it for their mayor. I think they just changed the term to 4 years. For the mayor, they didn't want to do it for the council. So they gave the mayor a 4-year term, but the council not a 4-year term. They gave them a 2-year term with the idea of
Hamden, I mean, come on. What are you going to say? I know you're listening, Hamden. Listen close. First of all, get a real downtown area, and then we'll talk about it. Don't have a 2 major street intersection and call it downtown. Let's move on.
Okay. Well, the new mayor will have 4 years to try to accommodate you. Okay.
So he is going to be for 4 years.
Once they elect their next election.
The one thing about it though, I got mixed emotions about this 2-year or 4-year term here in the city. And the mixed emotion, it's like my worst enemy going over the side of a cliff in my brand new Bentley. It's like
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, but no, the reason why I
Is
was
your
looking,
Bentley insured? Because that sounds like a win-win.
well, it might be a convertible. I got a parachute.
Yeah,
Moving it.
I'm just saying. I mean,
but the thing about it is that if you got someone that you're not comfortable with, it's only 2 years, he's gone, or she's gone.
right. Well, historically, I mean, if you're talking about the mayor's side, the thing about that is historically, at least in New Haven,
Even in the Alders,
they always get 4 years. So for the mayors, that second term historically, we've only had one mayor in the history of the city
who didn't have 2 years, who did 2 terms,
who did only 1 term.
Oh, okay. And when was this?
This was in the 59, 61.
No.
So,
Hold on. That happened in the 70s as well. Loeb came in.
So it was Loeb, yeah.
Yeah, Loeb came in, and he only had 1 term.
Yeah, so he would be the one.
Ben DeLito took him out. Yeah.
So he would be the one. So 69, maybe 60, 60.
No, that was the 70s. 70. Well,
Ben didn't come in as mayor until 80. So
right. Okay, 79.
1979
is when he won.
But
thanks to Hank Parker.
Right.
Don't even get me started.
Too late. Everybody, if you want to know his diet, so you can keep up with him, email him and he'll let you know what he's eating for breakfast. But at the end of the day, so on the mayor's term, that's the argument that people will make. They say that the people at the end of the day have voted consistently for 2-year terms.
Right.
To your point about if I like the guy or the woman, I can re-elect them, right? It's very the
problem with that is the person only governed for 1 year, a year and 3 months max. They're campaigning after that.
Well, listen, that's the people's choose, right? I mean, so and very rarely have we had mayors who didn't have 4 years, right? So at the end of the day, they did do that. Their first term was basically this whole campaign thing, but their second term was their term to govern, right? So
that's a shame. That's wasting 2 years.
Well, it can be if you're not tuned in. Most of our mayors have been people who have served in some capacity prior, whether it be as in an executive position for the city. John DeStefano was CAO, Ben DeLito was police chief, or an elected position.
But this mayor was not.
He'd been an alder before.
Was he?
Yeah, he'd been an alder before.
In which district?
In Ward 9 or 10 in East Rock.
East Rock?
Yeah.
Oh, his neighborhood.
Well, that's where you're alder. That's how we elect. We elect you directly from the neighborhood that you live in.
Well, I mean, he could have moved.
He could have, but he didn't. He still stayed in the neighborhood where he was elected to before. Mayor Hart, when she was mayor, she had been an alder as well.
Correct.
Before.
Correct.
So to your point about not knowing how to do stuff, if you don't know the mechanisms, that's true. But it's very rare that we elect people here in the city of New Haven who aren't familiar with the mechanisms and the levers of government, because most of them have either been on the administrative side or the executive side or the legislative side before they become mayor. I
got to hit you up with one more question and then we're out of here. Young people.
Yes, my favorites.
Young people
give me hope.
They really do.
They do.
Oh my God, I got to tell you this, especially this last midterm election.
Yes.
I got to tell you, I felt so great at the end of it just to see the activities of young people.
Yeah.
What's to reach out to gear up young people in legislative positions here in the city of New Haven?
Yeah. So I mean, it's so we haven't done it in a while, but we used to do an event called Youth and Government Day.
Oh, okay. Just a day.
Just a day. Okay. But we would introduce the students to all the aspects of city government, and everybody would play that role, and they would shadow different department heads, different, somebody shadowed the mayor, the president of the board, me, different people. And then we would have them come together, play our roles, and hopefully build that bug, to see how it goes.
Do they do a follow-up after that?
The youth council, not so much. I mean, I think the kids that are interested, they gravitate towards that. So they come back. They look for internships. They want to work with you over the summer. They want.
Do you guys reach out to them to let them know about the internships, or do you wait for them to reach out?
No, it's a little bit of both.
Okay,
it's a little bit of both. I've had a working relationship for a long time with various schools in the city that will reach out to me on a regular basis to look for position placements. Not just here necessarily in New Haven. They could be anywhere in this sphere, right? They could be up at the state capitol. They could be in your favorite town, Hamden. They could be they could be someplace else.
Right.
We actually had a young person who wasn't through any of our doing, but ended up being a page in Congress. Who's from Westville, young African American man who ended up being a page for one of the senators
that's awesome.
in Congress. So
that's awesome.
So New Haven has a long history of being really involved in
young people,
government, young people too, but being involved in government,
right?
In this country.
The thing about New Haven, man, you get the government bug, you can't shake it.
Well, who you talking to?
Exactly. You can't
years.
shake it. I'm not in an elected role or not in a position, but I tell you, man, I can't shake that political bug at all.
Well, because everything you do, everything is connected to that, right?
Every single thing.
So when people
even this microphone I'm speaking,
everything.
People want to understand this microphone.
Right.
Politics is why this microphone is able to be in this
Correct.
studio.
Right.
Because if it didn't pass some type of legislative regulation, it wasn't coming.
Right. And going back, just the freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
Just to be able.
Oh, don't even get that part going.
Right.
Oh my God. The words I say on here.
Right.
First Amendment.
I mean, in many places, the Hamden Mafia would be outside right now.
Oh yeah, the Hamden Mafia. Yeah, because of what I said.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in terms of like like
an Italian thing. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the people who love Hamden so much.
Right.
Would have been outside.
Right.
With
lined up, waiting for
and torches.
Yeah.
Waiting for you for saying something like that because you're not allowed to say those types of things.
Right.
The beauty part. One of the great aspects of democracy here is that we have the ability to actually exercise.
And I have First Amendment on both sides. I got two pieces of First Amendment.
Right.
Freedom of speech, freedom of the press.
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
Yeah. And so, that's great. That's actually helped us in terms of being able to make people really feel comfortable expressing whatever they would like to see changed.
Right.
Because they know that they're not going to get crucified for actually bringing up the fact that we need a turning.
I'm going to let you give your number one more time.
Oh,
Mr.
yes.
Al Lucas.
Thank you.
He is the Director of Legislative Services for the Board of Alders of the City of New Haven. Mr. Lucas, please let them know your number.
You can call our office again, 203-946-8371, 203-946-8371. That's my direct number. Call me. It rings to all my phones. And you can let me know of any particular issues that you're hearing about. We'll walk you through the process to get those things addressed, including this turning lane that I got to go now work on when I get back to the
10
office.
years. 10 years.
Listen, good things come to those who wait. So it's gonna be fine.
Love this guy.
It's gonna be fine.
It was great having you on, man.
My pleasure to be here.
It's like when I saw you and we talk about you coming on, man, I said, man, this guy's gonna be a great guest because him and I, when we get into our debates, if we may,
just
conversations. No, this is how it usually is.
Yeah, they just so you all know, this is authentic.
Oh, totally authentic.
This is what we do
all the time. As a matter of fact, I have to keep stopping myself from just keep talking over you because it's like when we get into it, it's like we're so passionate about what we're talking about, and it's like, oh my God. All right, thank you once again, Mr. Al Lucas. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out here, keeping it ugly with me, Joe Ugly. God, thank you guys for hanging out. Don't forget to subscribe.
Like and subscribe, people.
Like, subscribe, and hit that doggone notification button. Yeah, I want to see you guys totally connect with us. Stay connected. My man, take us out.